Hey, what up, fellow SGK users? Poker here. Today we're going to go ahead and set up the game animation sample with SGK version 2. And we're going to also import the sounds, because they're MetaSounds from the game animation sample kit, add them to our footsteps. And it's basically we're going to go from this right here. That's the standard movement and footstep sounds. We're going to go to this type of movement and these kinds of sounds. So let's get started. All right, first thing I want to do is in our project, go into project settings, search for tags. And we want to go down here. Oops, where are they? Here we go. We want to go ahead and manage gameplay tags. Now, oops, what did I do? Where'd they go? Right there. All right, so you can have different tag sources. It's going to have a default one, which would be default gameplay tags. I don't know if you guys are using gameplay tags or not, but you can create your own little source for them, but we're just going to go ahead and leave them in the default. So first one we need here is Foley dot event dot, and go ahead and copy that right now. So we're going to need to repeat that a lot, so make it a little easier. So we're going to do run. Let's see, we'll double check what we're going to need here. All right, so next we're going to need hand plant. We're not getting into doing any of the traversal in this episode, but might as well just have the stuff there to have anyway. So got a new one. Now we're going to go ahead and do another one. We're going to go ahead and do walk. And we need jump. We need a run strafe. Oops. Run backwards. And the way they have it spelled is with just WDS. Doesn't have to be capitalized or anything. We're going to need to walk backwards. We need a scuff. It's for like when you pivot or change directions. Oops. There's a scuff pivot. And a scuff wall. Tumble, that's also going to be one that we're not going to get into today, but might as well have it. And let's see. I think that's everything. Walk, walk backwards, tumble, scuff, wall, scuff pivot, scuff. Run strafe, run backwards, run, jump, hand plant. Yep, that's it. That's all we need there. Right, another thing, let's see. This is a brand new, fresh project of survival games kit, so we'll see if it's enabled already. MetaSounds. Yep, MetaSounds already enabled, so we're good to go on that. So next thing we're going to need to do is go ahead and go into the game animation sample. But if you haven't already downloaded, go ahead and do that. Get it downloaded and installed. Make a project out of it. And we're going to go into the characters folder. UEFN mannequin. Animations. And we're going to copy the crouch, the idle, the jump, run. We're going to go ahead and do the traversal just to have it, and then walk. Right click on them, migrate. And let's see, for audio, we're not gonna be using these, so we can delete those three. We want the MetaSounds, we want the sound waves. We're gonna keep the mix. The blueprints, we need those. And animation notifies, we need those. This data folder right here, that's all gonna be for, we're not gonna need it right now, but we're gonna leave it in. It's gonna be for the traversal stuff we're gonna do later. And then of course we need the UEFN mannequin information here. All right, so pretty much all we're getting rid of those three right there. Hit OK. Then we are going to go to our project, migrate it in. All right, so now that we've got our content migrated from the game animation sample project, first thing we're going to do is just go ahead and go in here into blueprints, animation notifies, and open up this first one here, the animation notify Foley event. Gonna have a bunch of compile errors, don't worry about that. We're gonna go ahead and just delete get audio bank. Don't worry about that, just hit yes. And then delete the received notify. All we really care about is this guy here, because that's gonna read our gameplay tags, so it knows when to trigger this event from the animation notify. And then we can also go ahead and just delete this one. These pitch and volume multipliers, they can be used if you go into, I'll show you here in a minute. So go ahead, and while we have this open and that stuff deleted, go ahead and reparent it. We want footstep. So go to the BP footstep. If we go into our characters folder here, mannequin animations, let's go ahead and take a look at the runs. As you can see, we have our events here that are already connected here to our gameplay animation tags. Just go ahead and close all this up for now. And then the first thing we're going to want to do is go into Survival Game Kit, Animations folder, and let's make a new folder called Motion Matching. Open that up. First thing we're going to need to do in here is we're just going to make a bunch of folders for the animations we're about to retarget. So we need an idle, walk, run, jump. Let's see what else do we need here. Oh, crouch. And that's all we really need for now as far as the animations. So let's go into our thing here, right click, retarget. Make sure that if you have any other mannequins in your kits, make sure that you're using the one that your game is already based on. So in this case, it would be the one in the survival game kit. And then we're going to search for crouch here. Select all these. Export into our crouch folder here. And it shouldn't really matter in this context because we're not copying anything, like any blend spaces or anything like that. But I always like to do the override existing files when you're doing retargeting, because if you do have any blend spaces, a lot of times it'll have like an idle pose or something like that. And if you don't use the overwrite function and it's going into the same folder as other animations, you can end up with like 3 or 4 or even 5 idle animations extras that you don't need. Because just make it overwrite, that way it'll always be using the same one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause it here and go ahead and do the rest, but you get the idea. Just we need to retarget all of our animations here first. So see you in a minute. All right, so when you get to the runs, all we need are the actual animations, just the green ones. So, and we don't necessarily need any of the transitions or traversals. Well, yeah, get rid of the traversals. We don't need those yet. It'll just make things a little more difficult and a little bit later. So, yeah, everything but the traversals that are green. All right. All right, now that we've got all of our animations copied and saved, let's go ahead and we need to, should have done this earlier, but that's all right. We need to enable a couple plugins here. So first one, we're going to do chooser. It is experiment or beta, so keep that in mind. Can change, can have issues. Now one thing, this project is being done in 5.4. It should be basically the same for 5.5. The only thing I've heard is that the UI for the chooser is a little bit different in 5.5. I'll look at the note at that when we get to that point. So, but yeah, we need chooser, we need pose search, and then we need trajectory, motion trajectory. This is experimental, so can't have bugs. Probably will change quite a bit in the future, but it probably won't change that much to where it's going to totally break it. So, but still use at your own risk anyway. Go ahead and restart. All right, so now that we've restarted after enabling our plugins, let's go ahead and go into the next step here. So we're going to go into our motion matching folder under the survival game kit that we have there. And the first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and make a pose search schema. So go to animation, motion matching, and then pose search schema here. And we want to set that to our UE5 mannequin, whatever our base mannequin is in our project. In our case, it's the UE5 mannequin. We're going to call that PSS. We'll just call it Manny. There's really not much that we need to do in here right now. There will be some stuff that we change in here a little bit later, but we're not going to worry about that right now because we don't need it at this very moment. So next thing we're going to do here is make a new folder, and we'll call it databases. And this is what's going to control all of our, group all of our animations together. I don't have the game animation sample open anymore, but like in theirs, you can really fine tune it, which we'll figure that out later. But basically, we don't need every single animation we have right now because they'll be used in different things. But we're just going to make the basics. We're going to do the same as before, like idle, run, walk, crouch. So go to animation, motion matching, and then we want to pose search database. We want to set that to our PSS Manny. And we'll call that PSD idle. And we need a walk, a run, a crouch, and a jump. All right, so we're going to start with the walk here. We want to go to our walk animations. We'll just go ahead and click on one, Control A, drag them in. And then one thing we want to do here is we want to look for anything that says jump. There are no jumps. Make sure there's no idles. And that's good there. Save that. Go to our run. Same thing. Go to the run folder. Drag them in. Look for any jumps. remove those. Look for idle. Shouldn't be, but yeah. All right, save. Next, jump. Oh, that's already in there. We should be good on that. Idle. All right, we don't want the crouch idles because we're going to add those into the other crouch. And the only thing we really want here is the loop. So neutral, stand, idle, loop. And then we want stand, turn. That's really all we need out of the idle folder in here. Because we already have the crouch idle in here. And then we need to open up our crouch database first. And then put all of our crouch animations in there. All right, so those are all of our grouped animations. I don't think we really need these idle breaks in here because they, like, I'm not exactly sure how it decides which one of these animations to use. Like, is it the first one on the list? How it randomly picks it? I mean, so. And it doesn't seem to use them, so we can go ahead and remove those idle breaks. And we should be good on here. I don't think there's any jumps on here. All right, so those are set up. Go back to our motion matching folder, and then we want to go to miscellaneous chooser table. We're going to call that CHT for chooser table. We're going to call it Manny. Now these things are pretty neat. There's a lot of things you can do with it. You can add multiple inputs for it. What we're looking for right now is a context object type class. You can also use structs in it. I'm just not exactly sure how you set the struct through it. I'm sure somebody will have a video out there eventually for that anyway. But what we want to do is go ahead and set this to our third person anim animation blueprint, our main blueprint for SGK. Because basically we're going to read things off of that blueprint in this table, and that decides what animation to use. And we want to set the object output type to pose search database. I'm not sure what all the other things you can put the object output type to, but I'm sure somebody will have some information on that soon enough, because it sounds like you can do a lot with this chooser table. Anyway, what we are looking for is class, or asset, I mean. But you can also, these are kind of neat. You can, basically it's a fake one of these right here that we're using. Oh, you need to set it. We'll just call it test. Then you can go in here and, like, let's say for animation, you could add more choosers in here. You can set it to different things. It's pretty crazy. These things are pretty, have a lot of potential, it looks like. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go back here. We're going to delete that. And we need 4 more of the asset tables. We'll go with idle, walk, run, jump, crouch. All right, and then if you see over here, we have add column. Go ahead and click on that. The first one we want is a float range column. Once it's set, click on it again. And then we're on our third person animation blueprint. We are looking for the speed idle, we're going to leave it 0, 0. Walk, we're going to set this to 301. Or 1 to 301, sorry. So therefore, anything that's in the range of 1 to 301 is going to choose from our walk animations. And on run, we're going to go 302 to 999. Then on jump, we're going to leave that 0, but we're going to put this at 999. Then on crouch, we're also going to leave that at 0 and put that to 999. Let me double check to make sure that's correct. Yeah, crouch and jump, both 0 to 999. Alright, next column is going to be a bool column. We're going to set that to our is crouching. And we want to set that to false, 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 and this one to true. Going to add another bool column here, but we're going to end up changing this here in a minute because I'm not sure why. There's two ways we can fix it. I'll show you how, both ways. But we're going to go ahead and set this to is jumping. We want everything false except for is jumping, or the jump one. And that's pretty much it for that. So basically it's going to choose one of these animation tables here, depending upon these settings here, whether you're in the correct speed range, and if you're crouching or not, or if you're jumping or not. All right. So that's done. Now we're going to go ahead and I think the next step is animation blueprint. Go to our third person animation blueprint. And we want to go to, oh, you know what? That's what we need to do. We need to set up a couple things on a character as well here. So, go to blueprints, characters, SGK master character. And we're going to add a component called the, it's just there, character trajectory. Compile and save it. And we're going to go ahead and add a walk key real quick too. So open up the inputs folder. And then, but first, before we do that, we need to go to the controls folder, take the sprint, duplicate it, call it walk, walk input, open up SGK character inputs, add a mapping, set it to our walk, choose a walk key. If you just click on the keyboard, you can choose whatever key you want. We're going to go ahead and go with the left alt. Save it. Go back to our master character. Go down right down here by the sprint input because it's basically going to be this almost the same thing as this. So we're going to go walk, input, the enhanced action event, and we need to go to our player inventory. And we can, where are we doing this at? Let's see. We will go to movement. Yep. Go to movement, create a custom event. Doesn't really matter where you put it. I'm just trying to keep everything together. Add a custom event, call it the server walk input. Add an input, call it down, leave it as a boolean, promote it to a variable, name it walk key down. Oh, we want to turn this to a server event. We want to go back to the character. Go ahead and get a player inventory node. And server what? Oh, did we not compile it? Server walk input. Need 2 of them. Oops, that needs to be. Oops. This needs to be on started, not triggered. Then click that one on. All right. So what we want to do is from here, let's get a branch. We want to break all the node links on that. Move it over here. Because we only want this to be down if it's actually down. So. And we're going to make this a toggle, so we're going to add a flip-flop. Hook up both. Connect that there. And then we're going to drag from here and do update max movement speed. And off the character state, we want current character state. Go ahead and open up this function. And there's 2 ways you can do this. You can either have it, I mean, there's actually a lot more ways you can do this, but there's 2 simple ways you can do this. You can either have it so that whenever you press the walk key down, you're always going to go that exact same speed that we set right here. Or you can do, oops, you can divide whatever our movement speeds that are set in here by 2. We're just going to do that because that's the easiest thing to do at the moment. So hook that up there, hook that to false. And duplicate the movement speed and the character component. Or, yeah, character component. Hook that up there, hook that up there. Same thing up here. I'll set that to 2. And this way, whenever you press the walk key button, it's going to slow your speed in half, whether you're running or crouching or whatever. All right, and then we want to go ahead and get our walk key down, put that there. All right, so now we'll have a walk function in our character here. All right, next we want to have our trajectory, have everything. I do believe it is time to go into the animation blueprint. So open that. Oh, no, there is one more thing we need to do. Go into other interfaces, SGK character interface, add a function. I'm going to name it get trajectory component. And add an output. Call it trajectory component. Or whatever you like. And then we want to set this to the trajectory component. Oops. Make sure you do the character trajectory component, not the trajectory channel. All right, save that, compile. Back to the master character. Go to interfaces. Open up that get character trajectory, place it right there. Anyway, make sure these are all connected. All right, so animation blueprint, go to update, get a copy of the try get pawn owner here. And then we want to get the trajectory component, that little function we just made. Look that up there. And then promote that to a variable. Go into the animation graph. We need a motion matching node. We want to go over here to the settings database, set it to a dynamic value, get rid of the pin. Up here, we're going to go to on update, create a binding. From here, we want to convert to motion matching node. From here, we need an evaluate chooser. We're going to set that to our Manny. This doesn't do anything, so don't worry about it. And then we need to, let's see, what was it? Set database to search. This has more functionality, but we're not going to get into it here. I'll just make sure you set it to interrupt on database change. Otherwise, when you go from crouch to idle, it's not going to sense it. So set that. Come back here. We need to do a history, pose history. Then right click on that. Go to trajectory component, set its trajectory. This is the variable that we just set on our animation blueprint. Now, plug that in there. There are using our animations. There we go. Now we got some nice smooth motion trajectory going on here. Alright, so one thing I noticed after adding this, when you pick up a weapon, the IKs are off in the third person. It doesn't affect first person at all. So we'll just have to go through your animation layers for your weapons and change the IKs up to make. Alright, so as you notice in the video, the jump is, we're having some issues there. But it actually turns out, I thought it was just the rifle that was causing that. But it's because I forgot we need to do something. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to go back into our motion matching folder here. We need to find our pose search schema here, duplicate it, and we're going to call this, just add underscore jump to the end of it. So we need to have a separate schema for jump. I mentioned this earlier, but I forgot about that. So then also we want to go to our database here, and we want to set that to our jump, on our jump database. Alright, so first we're going to go ahead and set up our standard schema here. Alright, so this I believe we don't need to mess with. No, those all stay default. Sample bones. Yeah, we need to add one here to sampled bones. It's going to be set to pelvis. And then we want to set the flags to velocity and position. And lastly, we want to go back up here to channels, add one. It's going to be a heading channel. Then we're going to set that to the pelvis bone. Down here on heading axis, we want to set to Y. Then on component stripping, strip Z. All right, so that's our standard Manny schema. Now we want to go to our jump schema. And go to our first channel here under samples. We're going to change a lot on these. Now I could pretend that, I get the basic gist of what's going on here, but if I tried to tell you that I knew exactly what we're doing here, I'd be lying. So I'm just going by what the guy that made the original video that I watched, which by the way, his name is Cartoon Develop Tips. He has really good info on the game animation sample project, how to implement different things. I definitely suggest checking him out. I'll add a link in the video in the description. So anyway, sample 1, we want to set this offset to -0.2. Then up here, I forgot about this, on the weight, under channels, we want to set that to 10. -0.2. And then we want to set this to just position. And we want to set this weight right here to 0.25. Next, we are going to change this to velocity direction and facing direction. Set this to 1. And this one is going to be 0.2 on the offset. And we're going to go here with, velocity, position, velocity direction. Weight stays the same. Last index here, offset 0.4. This stays the same, the flags. Yep, and then set the weight to 0.7. All right, next, sampled bones. Does not change on here, but we do need to add another channel, a heading channel. And again, that's going to be our pelvis. We're going to set the heading axis to Y and strip Z. All right. So now that that's set, we should have a pretty normal jump now. Yep, we do, except if you notice, we're resetting to run before we hit the ground again. That has something to do with the way that Defuse set up the is jumping button that we used, or key, the variable that we used in the chooser. So we can fix that pretty easily. I'm not exactly sure why he went that route with that particular way, but anyway, just go in here to our third person animation, and we want to go to the update locomotion data. It's right here under the blueprint thread safe update animation. Click on that. Just go ahead and duplicate this guy here. And we want to go to try get pawn over owner. Get movement component. And is falling. Promote that to a variable. Rename it to is falling. Save it, compile it. And then we want to go back into our chooser and change it from is jumping to is falling. Now we get the full jump. And now we should have jump with our weapon as well. Yep. Alright, so that's it. I mean, that's the basics of getting the movement going in your game. Getting the mantling and all that is up to you. I'm working on it, but if I ever get it done, I'll post a video on that too. But let's go ahead and just mess with sounds real quick here too. It's a pretty decent little free for personal use Essential Footsteps SFX on Fab. They have some decent sounds in there. But what you can do with that, I'm not going to download it and add them right now, but I'll just show you. Go into your MetaSounds. And if you notice, we now have sound for hand plant, jump, land, run backwards, run strafe, scuff, a scuff pivot, scuff wall, tumble, walk, and walk backwards. So you have a very wide range of sounds you can add here. And then what you could do too is let's go ahead and just do the run. Duplicate it. We call it, like, let's say run wood. Go in here and input. We would just set these to some footsteps that we have for a wood sound. Go back to our notifies, which are in the blueprints folder here. Find the one for run. Oh, I guess there's a run left and a run right. Then you would just set your new sound here to run wood. Or actually, no, you wouldn't do that. We would leave that as run, and then we would need to, yeah, we could. We would set this to wood, set this to wood, and add a new one. Set that one back to default run. And there you go. And that's how you would have a wood sound running, and you could have that for every single thing. Like the hand plants, the left as well. Jump, land, strafe. And I think that's pretty much it here. I think I've covered everything there for the most part. It's working. Can be expanded upon later. Shouldn't be too difficult to get the mantling system working on it. Anyway, hope you learned something and hope it's working good for you. Have a good day. I'm out.